I'd like to call the January 15th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting to order. First thing on the agenda, can we get the roll call, please?
Cindy Showerman,
Present.
Daniel Foreman,
Present.
Jerry Bushelman,
Present.
Victor Talent,
Present.
Kelly Hall,
Present.
Doug Dennison.
Present. Okay, very good. Second item on the agenda is the review of the agenda by the Planning Commission and any additional items of new business for the agenda for consideration by the Planning Commission.
I move we accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Bushelman and seconded by Commissioner Dennison to approve the agenda as written. All who approve vote yes, all who oppose vote no. Motion carries. On to second item, or third item, which is the public invited to be heard. If there's anybody in the audience that has an item that they would like to talk to the commission about that is not on the agenda for tonight, please come forward. You have 3 minutes at the podium. There'll be a red, yellow light. And at that time, you can, when the yellow comes on, you've got about 30 seconds left. Red comes on and you're through. So if there's anybody here that needs to talk to the commission before we get started. Doesn't look like anybody roaring up there. David, do you have anything that you'd like to say?
Nothing yet, sir.
Okay.
Nope, here.
Okay, the next thing we have on the, for item B is the consent calendar, which is the approval of the minutes of the November 6th, December 4th, and December 18th meetings.
I move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second. Go ahead.
It's been moved by Commissioner Showerman and seconded by Commissioner Bushelman to approve the consent calendars as written for November 6th, November 6th, December 4th, and December 18th. All who approve, vote yes. All who oppose, vote no. Motion carries. Now we move into the board actions.
Commissioner Talon, it's not a public hearing, so I won't have to do any disclosures tonight. Thank you.
Let's see, where's it? Is this first one a public hearing? No.
It's actually not a public
Okay.
hearing, no.
Okay, no, that's right.
No
Sorry.
public hearings.
So it's a board action. It's, the first one is the preliminary major subdivision, Rain Dance subdivision, 8th filing, David Nelson and Martin Lynn, Rain Dance Development LLC. Paul, you're, I guess, the one up, huh?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Planning Commissioners. So before you tonight, we've got the 8th and 9th filings of Rain Dance combined into a single memo presentation. However, they will require separate actions after my presentation. The subdivisions have been reviewed in accordance with Article 4, Chapter 17 of the Municipal Code. The site is north of New Liberty Road in the Rain Dance development area, just to the east of Colorado Boulevard, County Road 13. The property is zoned PUD, planned unit development, which means it has its own unique development standards. The 8th filing is really just a continuation of really the type of development we've seen on the south side of New Liberty. It's approximately 40 acres in size with 138 single-family lots. Lots range in size from 5,500 to 6,600 square feet. They're planned for 1- and 2-story houses with attached garages. There will be a number of landscape and other improvements, approximately 3 acres of open space and agricultural type uses. And the 9th filing is just further west of the 8th filing. And it consists of approximately 73 acres, 239 single-family lots, similar lot sizes of approximately 5,500 square feet to 6,600 square feet, with 1- and 2-story single-family houses. Again, there will be open space and agricultural type uses on the property, approximately 17 acres. The 8th and 9th filings are both in conformance with the comprehensive plan, as well as the strategic plan. Notifications for the 8th and 9th filing neighborhood meeting were sent in accordance with the code to surrounding property owners. For the 8th filing, staff recommends that Planning Commission approve the preliminary major subdivision as presented, subject to all remaining Planning Commission and staff comments being addressed. And staff further requests the following be entered into the record: the application and supplemental materials, staff memo and supporting documents, and a recommendation. So I'll leave it at that for the 8th filing if the board wants to consider a motion.
Oh, I had one question. On the site vicinity map slide, there's just one tiny little square of land that's kind of not highlighted as part of the site parcel. Do you know what that is?
Are you referring to this map?
No, on the site overview, one more back. Yeah, that little square.
This little square here?
Yep.
Yeah, I believe at one time there was a conservation easement, so it was a separate property. That conservation easement's gone away, and for all intents and purposes, it is part of the Rain Dance development.
Mr. Chairman.
Oops, sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Baker.
Cover Bridge Road, is that gonna tie into 13?
It will, yes.
Another intersection along that? Does
Yeah.
it line up with the existing street on the west?
Yeah, so it'll continue north and it curves to the west, and I forget which street, Cherry Blossom or one of those streets, it does line up with those, yeah.
Will it be a roundabout or?
I believe at this point it's planned for a signal, but That would be a ways off till there'd be a need for the signal, and roundabout could be on the table.
Yeah, it'll be a signal, you say will be a signal there?
I believe it's assumed that there would be a signal, but it's open for the possibility of a roundabout.
That was my question also.
Any further questions from the commission? I'd entertain a motion.
Move we approve the preliminary major subdivision or rain dance subdivision 8th filing in accordance with all the staff recommendations.
Second?
Been moved by Commissioner Bushman and seconded by Commissioner Showerman to approve the preliminary major subdivision as presented by staff. All who approve, vote yes. All who oppose, vote no. Kick on for me, I guess. Motion carries. We'll move on to action item 2, which is the preliminary major subdivision, Rain Dance subdivision 9th filing. Again, David Nelson and Martin Lynn, Rain Dance Development LLC. Paul?
So nothing further to add other than the recommendation for the 9th filing. Staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the preliminary major subdivision as presented, subject to all Planning Commission and staff comments being addressed on the final major subdivision plat. Staff also requests the following be entered into the record: application and supplemental materials, staff memo and supporting documents, and the recommendation.
Any further questions from commission?
I make a motion we approve the preliminary major subdivision, rain dance subdivision 9th filing as presented by the staff.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Bushelman and seconded by Commissioner Foreman to approve the preliminary major subdivision, Rain Dance subdivision 9th filing as presented by staff. All who approve, vote yes. All who oppose, vote no. Motion carries. We'll move on to item 3, which is a recommendation to the town board for master plan amendment, future items. I'll kill that name. Ken. Okay. Anyway, Paul?
Thank you. So this amended master plan has been reviewed in accordance with Article 2, Chapter 15. The site is located north of Eastman Park Drive and east of Diamond Valley Drive. It is the former Diamond Valley Park. The site is approximately 132 acres in size, and it is zoned limited industrial, or IL. The master plan depicts a number of uses, including a stadium with approximately 3,400 seats, located generally in the center of the site. There are 2 inflatable domes with multi-use sports fields that are approximately 94,000 square feet each, those being located just north of the stadium. 8 baseball fields, 1 baseball miracle field, 8 soccer fields, sand volleyball, a dormitory of approximately 30,000 square feet, 2 hotels totaling 270 rooms, an extended stay facility with 50 rooms, a medical office building of approximately 40,000 square feet, general retail uses, which are generally to the southwest of the stadium, an e-gaming theater with 280 seats, as well as approximately 1,200 parking stalls on the site. The site features some other unique elements. There's a town master drainage channel for conveying stormwater that runs north-south through the site. There will be a town trail which generally follows that drainage channel alignment. And there are also Greeley water lines that traverse across the site. 2 primary access points are proposed, one at an intersection with Eastman Park Drive in this general vicinity, as well as an intersection with Diamond Valley Drive in this location, which could serve as an additional, excuse me. So those are the 2 primary routes. There are some additional routes for access. To the north is a fire access, which could also serve as a public exit during large events if needed. And there is a parking lot access directly off Diamond Valley Drive as well for these fields in this vicinity. There is a traffic study that's being prepared for the site, and subsequent site plans will need to adhere to the findings of that study. The following pages that I scroll through are just zoomed in looks at the master plan. So if there's any questions, we can look at those in more detail. There is phasing proposed for the site. The first phase, 2 soccer multi-use fields are already under construction and may already be complete, which are in this vicinity. Phase 2 is the stadium, hotels, and inflatable domes. Phase 3 is the remainder of the sports fields, and Phase 4 is the retail, medical office, extended stay facility, and the e-gaming facility. The proposal is consistent with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. It's also in conformance with the strategic plan. There are a number of recommendations that go along with this, given the complexity of the site and, well, I'll leave it at that. The complexity of the site, there's a number of conditions that I will run through. So staff does recommend Planning Commission forward to Town Board a recommendation of approval of the master plan amendment, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, all outstanding staff and Planning Commission comments shall be addressed. Number 2, master plan approval shall not be deemed to release any portion of the property from the requirements and limitations of the first amended and restated agreement for cooperative development and use of Diamond Valley property dated January 28, 2019. Release of any such requirements and restrictions shall be effective only upon official action of the Windsor Town Board, taken at a regular or special meeting in accordance with the town's home rule charter. Number 3, due to the absence in the record of a transportation impact study or TIS, the type and extent of access improvements to the property from Eastman Park Drive shall be determined based upon the town's transportation consultant review of the applicant's forthcoming TIS. All other traffic study findings as determined by the town's transportation consultation review shall be incorporated into the master plan as recommended. Number 4, permanent structures shall be set back from plugged and abandoned oil and gas wells in accordance with any such setback requirement in place at the time of site plan submittal. Number 5, as a condition of the first subdivision approval for the property, the portion of Area E providing east-west access to the site as depicted in this master plan shall be dedicated as a privately maintained permanent public access easement to remain open for street and parking purposes associated with the Town of Windsor Parks and Recreation related uses. And number 6, a 20-foot wide easement for a future town-owned 12-inch water line along the eastern property boundary of Area D shall be dedicated to the town as a condition of the first subdivision approval of the property. The water line, if installed, shall be installed at the expense of the town or parties benefiting by the water line. Staff requests the following be entered into the record: the application and supplemental materials, staff memo, supporting documents, any testimony received, and the recommendation. The applicant's team is here as well. Should you have any questions, want to hear from them. And that's concludes what I have for you.
Thank you, Paul. Do you have any comments from?
I have a question. Are they going to be contributing funds toward to the road fund?
Yeah, at the time they pull a building permit, they would be subject to road impact fees unless that were waived by the town board, but I'm not aware of any such discussion.
Okay. There are provisions for impact fees from these type of a development.
Yes,
We need a lot to be done. What is the timing of the phases? Is that
I defer to the applicant to their phasing plan.
Would the applicant like to come up and give us a kind of a timing of the phases, please? Please give us your name and address.
My name is Ryan Spielborgs. I'm an owner with Future Legends. First off, I want to thank staff for all the hard work, Paul, Scott. I mean, this has taken a long time to get to where this project is, so appreciate it. It's been a lot, been a wild ride. Behind us, I do have members of our design team from Galloway. Civil and landscaping is here, as well as from Hensel Phelps. So if there are any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll bring our team members down.
Mr. Dennison, do you have anything?
Well, I was just curious, where will the hotels and some of the other commercial or retail stuff be located? That wasn't clear to me on the site plan.
The hotels will be adjacent to the stadium.
Okay.
We can have Tim come down with Galloway. So we'll point it out for you.
Good evening. My name is Tim Nelson. I'm the senior planner and landscape architect for Galloway and Company in Greenwood Village, Colorado. So if you look at the stadium here, if you can see the little arrow here, this is the stadium, and it wraps around home plate like a typical stadium would. On the right field corner, we have two hotels, one out at right field and one following the first baseline,
Okay.
framing that corner. And then the stadium is here. The dormitory is this L-shaped building right here. And then the retail is this retail plaza immediately outside the front. It'll be kind of a grand plaza, what we're envisioning. The Greeley water line goes through, so there's no buildings that would be underneath that plaza. So it's kind of a nice area to do a nice big grand plaza for gathering and before the games. And then we'll have this. It's surrounded by retail down in this area here.
Wait a second, so the hotels start at the same time as the stadium?
Yeah, I mean, as much as construction can be timed, but yes,
Sure.
it's all part of the second phase, it's all part of the second submittal that's actually already in the town for initial review.
Did anybody answer the question, what timing on different phases?
So phase one were the two soccer fields that meets the agreement with the town that are to be delivered in spring, so we had to start construction on those. That is this area this area right here. Phase two is the stadium and the bubbles and the parking and access ways in from Eastman and in from Diamond Valley. That's in for review with the city right now and looking to start construction in 2020. And then from there, it gets a little looser of how things start to play out. But phase 3 and 4 would be or we call it 2A and 2B, because they don't follow immediately afterwards, are the baseball diamonds in this area. The Miracle Field is right here, and if anyone wants to know what that is, I can explain that. And then the fields over on the northeast corner are all kind of that next step. So,
Okay.
and retail will be kind of the final stage. So,
Any further questions?
I have a question back to Paul. The recommendation about the plugged oil and gas wells and permanent structures, is that a standard recommendation that we always, are we gonna do now, or?
No, it is unique to this one, really for two reasons. One, because we know there is a plugged-in abandoned well on the site. And secondly, the town board is going to be considering an ordinance. We don't have a setback from plugged-in abandoned wells at this time. The town board's going to be considering one in the near future. So we wanted to have them comply with that as it comes on.
Okay, good, thank you.
I move we make a recommendation of approval to the town board for the master plan agreement on Future Legends as presented by staff and subject to the recommendations of staff.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Bushman and seconded by Commissioner Dennison to make a recommendation to the town board of approval of the master plan amendment, subject to the following conditions as stated by staff. All who approve, vote yes. All who oppose, vote no. Motion carries. Okay, move on to our
It'll be an
Huh?
interesting project.
It's gonna be, yeah, I think it'll be fun.
We boost the town.
Okay, we'll move on to communications with the planning commission. Cindy?
No communications?
Nothing at night.
Doug?
Nothing, Paul?
Paul?
No, sir.
Scott?
Yeah, just as Paul mentioned, the oil and gas location discussion. We're actually having the next 2 work sessions with the town board to discuss oil and gas again. On Monday night, it will be locational standards and what other jurisdictions are doing. And one of those topics will be setbacks from oil, or from plugged and abandoned oil and gas wells. So that was at the town board's request back in December, that they wanted to talk about locational requirements and what others are doing. And then the following week, the 27th, will also be a town board work session with oil and gas on the agenda. And that's a follow-up to the air quality discussion that the last work session fell on the snowstorm night. So neither of the 2 industry representatives were able to be there. So town board is allowing another evening for them to be able to attend and give their perspective.
What time are those work sessions, Scott?
I believe they're both 6 o'clock. And not to forget, Mr. Hornbeck will also have the next segment in the code update, the land use code update, on that same January 20th meeting. So land use code followed by oil and gas locational requirements. So, big night.
Woo-hoo, we don't want to miss Paul.
Yeah.
Man. So it really is 6 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
David?
It's AM.
Pardon?
AM.
Yeah, I'm in, I'm
Make it
much
a
better
long
at
day.
6 a.m. Yeah.
Nothing to report, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you.
Well,
Move you adjourn.
meeting is adjourned.